Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. Thanks for tuning in on our live stream. We're going to watch an Atlas V rocket go off Cape Canaveral here coming up in about less than 10 minutes, and it's going to be carrying the Starliner capsule. And if you're not familiar with what that is actually going to be a crew capsule. It's going to carry astronauts into low Earth orbit. This is their second test. So this is a rather large rocket, and there's a pretty good chance, depending on where you are in the Carolinas and your view of the eastern sky, that you might be able to see this. Now, typically, when we see these rocket launches, we see vivid clouds before sunrise and after sunset. We are not going to see that with this launch because obviously it's happening closer to 7 p.m. The sun doesn't go down until about 8:20 now. So we're not going to get that vivid jellyfish cloud that you sometimes see on pictures online, or if you've been up for some of the launches pre-dawn like I have here in Charlotte. This is going to more look like a contrail, maybe very small. It may take a little bit of difficulty to see it, but we've got some cameras here in Charlotte to help hopefully see it. We've got somebody out at the airport, the overlook, looking back towards the east. We've got 3 cameras, Monroe, 2 cameras there. We've got a couple cameras as well as over in Dallas, which is up on our tower. So if we're going to see it from Charlotte, we're going to have a good view from one of these cameras. And if you want to go outside and watch it with us, just bring your phone along with you. We're going to stream this. So what you're seeing on the right side of your screen right now, that is actually the live feed from NASA down at Cape Canaveral. You can see the rocket is on the launch pad. I have not seen any delays or holds so far. That's good. They've got an 80% go because of the weather. On the left, you see our live picture from Charlotte Douglas International. This is from the overlook, which, by the way, is a very hidden gem. If you have a free hour and a half to kill and you want to go watch some planes, plane spotting out there is a good time. Bring the kids. Sometimes they do food trucks out there in that lot as well. There are a lot of photographers and a lot of aviation geeks like heading out there, and actually some pretty spectacular views of the city because you're looking back across the airport towards uptown and then into the east and southeast skies. So Will is our photographer out there. He's got a great shot set up there. So keeping an eye on the countdown here. I've got it pulled up on my laptop as well. I see they're still counting down their go for launch, so that's good. The countdown is going. I see they're fueling everything up right now, which is a good sign as well. When you watch the rocket there, a lot of folks will always ask me, what's going on there? All that steam or clouds. They're actually venting excess oxygen and other fuels. What they're doing is they're constantly keeping it full under pressure, and so that it doesn't overpressurize, some escapes. It's like a relief valve. So when you get close to launch, they're cranking in the fuels because they want it to be as full as possible. But obviously when you're always pumping in extra oxygen and stuff like that, you're getting some overflows there as well. Now this launch should be pretty spectacular down in Florida. For folks down there, I think the views are going to be pretty amazing. And if you're on the coast, if you're watching me like on the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, you're going to have a much better view of this than even us here in the Western Carolinas. So it looks like they're still go for launch. I'm seeing the countdown clock at around 4 minutes, 30 seconds as they continue to count down. The thing we're watching for is any kind of hold. Now, there could be a couple reasons they put a hold on. One is weather. That's when you worry about lightning, cloud cover, high winds. They launch weather balloons once an hour down there to make sure the wind shear isn't going to disturb this. The other thing I've seen holds for is obviously mechanical or technical issues. They get warning lights. But there's a third thing. Sometimes boats range into the no boating area off the coast of Florida there, because remember, there's going to be a booster rocket and they want a clear area in case there should be a mishap. Let's say it explodes or they have to abort the mission. They're going to land it in the water, so they clear all the boats. That means all recreational commercial vessels have to be out of the area. I was down there for a rocket launch one time, and there was a brief hold because somebody in a bayliner on their boat just wandered into the area they weren't supposed to be. So they want to keep that area clear. So you may see a hold for that as well. What's interesting is watching this go up without anybody on there, thinking in the future this is going to have a crew on there. So this aircraft, or I should say aircraft, this spacecraft and the capsule were actually built by Boeing. So this is a NASA project, but Boeing is the contractor who put this rocket as well as the Starliner capsule together. So it's kind of a unique rocket, and the reason we probably could see it here in Charlotte, it's got 2 giant boosters. You might see them from the pad there on either side. Those are going to drop off fairly early on. They're going to help get the whole thing off the ground. They drop off, then the main engine is going to burn for a while. You're going to see another separation as the upper stage goes off, and then there'll be another separation as the capsule actually takes off. So I'm looking at the countdown here. We're at about 2 minutes 45 seconds as I'm looking at my feed. There might be a little delay. Remember, you're watching a live stream. So a live stream, as the internet goes, there's always a little bit of a delay here. So you may want to head outside a little bit earlier than what you're seeing on your phone or your computer or tablet, because it's likely happened a couple seconds earlier than what you're actually going to see. Now, in Charlotte, if you're looking east or southeast, don't expect to see it initially at launch or takeoff. It's going to be probably, looking at the timings here, I'm going to think it's about 120 seconds, at least maybe 180 seconds after launch. So you're looking at several minutes after it's taken off before you get a chance to see it. Because remember, it's going to be below the horizon initially. But some of the Falcon launches that I've seen for Starlink and some of the other SpaceX launches, I've actually seen the booster rocket come back down from Charlotte, but it's been at night or it's been pre-dawn or after sunset. It'll be interesting to see what this cloud looks like. I honestly don't know what we're going to see here in Charlotte, because we haven't seen this kind of launch go on, and we haven't seen it this time of day, which is still daylight. But remember, this is looking east, and the sun is setting in the west. While the sun is not down, as I look at my watch to see what time that actually sets, that's going to be closer to 8:23, excuse me. So it's still pretty low in the horizon, so it should illuminate whatever vapor cloud it does develop in the eastern sky, but it won't look as vivid because the sky will not be dark behind it. It won't have that contrast as we look behind. So we're getting close to launch, 1 minute, T-minus 55 seconds as I'm looking at the launch here on my laptop as well, as you guys are watching. NASA is listening to in the ear. You guys can hear him a little bit as well.
Go Atlas, go Centaur, go Starliner.
So those goes are what we want to hear. Those are all the different officers for the different parts of the launch. They all have to give the go before they can take off. So we just heard them go through that sequence of everyone saying go for launch. So here we go, 30 seconds, guys. The engines are going to start.
Release.
There we go. We've got the launch. Now look at that. This is what I'm talking about, the boosters. Look how much fuel is coming out of the bottom of that. That is a huge rocket. And imagine being there. That's what it looks like down on the ground. There's a great view there. NASA providing some amazing pictures. So a lot of folks down there on the east coast of Florida, down over coastal Georgia, as well as South Carolina. Now what we'll be watching here probably in about, we're about a minute after launch here, coming up here. We're plus 30 seconds and counting, 35, 40, 50. So you'll see the plus. The plus, that's why you see T-minus, that's pre-launch, plus is post-launch. So watch to see these booster rockets come off here. So we'll keep an eye on these cameras looking off to the east.
4 miles in altitude, 1 mile downrange distance.
So you hear the altitude they're at. 4 miles downrange already.
All systems continue to look good. Mach 1, Atlas is now supersonic.
So they are really, the boosters are still attached right now.
The RD-180 is now
watch the
beginning to
boosters
throttle
come
up.
off. Those are that, you'll see them on the rocket
good.
itself there. They will come off here shortly. And when you see that, that'll be the first time that in Charlotte we might be able to see it, but people on the coast probably have a much better view of this. So it's getting pretty high now.
We've had Srv Burnout, and the RD-180 has throttled back up.
So its altitude is around 25 kilometers. Velocity is very high. So we have not dropped the boosters yet.
Atlas is now 16 miles in altitude, 10.5 miles downrange distance.
So you're hearing the altitude in miles, 16 miles up. That's about 30 kilometers. And climbing. So I'll be curious. I'm watching my social media feed, so people in Charlotte are able to see this. So the boosters will be coming off here in a second.
Now just 1/2 of what it did at launch, burning propellant at a rate of 2,800 pounds per second.
So it's pretty high up now.
Standing by for SRB jettison. And we've had indication of good SRB jettison.
They just came off. So those were the boosters coming off.
Vehicle is now executing closed loop steering. We have approximately 2 minutes remaining in the Atlas booster phase of flight.
So still going higher. We're now about 2 minutes 40 seconds into the flight here.
The RD-180 is now throttling down slightly.
So you can see the vapor cloud is not really
Engine
in
response
a
looks good.
backdrop of darkness, so you're not going to see much. I'm looking at our cameras. I don't see a whole lot. I don't know what they're seeing at the airport now. This would be about the time if we were going to see
Since our
something.
reaction control system is now
We would have a
pressurized
good
at flight
view.
levels.
So I'm looking at the fuel still coming out of the bottom stage. Still got a
Atlas
ways to
systems
go.
continue to look good at this time. Vehicle is 38 miles in altitude, 79 miles downrange
Yep,
distance.
65 kilometers high now and climbing. So looking at the various cameras, I'm not seeing a whole lot, and this is hard to see. So the airport is up there. I'm going to step over and look closer so I can see it.
209 seconds. We have
Don't
1
really
minute to
see
begin,
much.
1 minute to booster engine cutoff.
The thing about this, and during the daylight, it's
3180 is
probably
now
going to be
throttling
pretty
to maintain a
small.
constant 3.5
So
G
if
acceleration
anyone has
rate.
binoculars with them, might be the best way to view it. Looking higher and higher up. As it gets higher and higher up, our chances of seeing it will increase. Now the separation is going to be coming up here in a minute. So booster shutoff is going to be coming up here at about 210.
The RL-10 engines have now begun their boost phase chill down sequence.
The main engine, which is going to be the upper phase, you'll see the bottom of the rocket basically break away here. As the fuel is, I'm watching the fuel actually come out, looking at a simulation of the fuel.
Last few seconds of booster flight.
And here goes the last little bit of fuel exiting the lower stages. Should be separating here momentarily. So there's an animation of it right
We have
there.
BECO booster engine cutoff.
So there they go. So see the upper stage is going to now break away.
And we have indication of a successful stage separation event. Pre-start on the RL-10s.
So now this stage is going to burn for a while. It has its own engine, which is going to continue to push the capsule, which is at the very tip
And
there.
we have
That's
ignition.
the Starliner. So there you go. You see the ignition. Now that is something that might have been seen from Charlotte because that's happening super high up.
Vehicle has executed closed loop guidance.
I'm going to be really curious to see how many people actually get to see this.
And we have indication of aeroskirt jettison.
So I just got a
This
couple
first and only
tweets.
burn of the center
People
upper
saw it in
stage engines will
Waxhaw.
last just over 7 minutes.
So
We'll
somebody
place
just
Centaur,
tweeted at me that they
Starliner,
saw it from
and
Waxhaw and
some
thought it was pretty
trajectory.
cool. So that's a good sign. They probably had their binoculars out. So that's a good sign. So Monroe, we should have been able to see something. I'm going to actually move the cameras around. Looking at our Monroe cameras.
Upper stage systems continue to look good at this time.
We've got some high clouds out there, which is making it difficult to see off to the western horizon. But it's high enough in the sky that I would hope that we would at least see some of the vapor trail, which is what you're going to see first. Because remember, this thing is going to be tiny to the naked eye. So we'll scan the sky here. I'm actually moving our Monroe camera as I'm talking to you. Don't see a lot. Looking back towards the northeast. So this is heading up to the North Atlantic right now. If you were looking at a map in 2D, it's heading basically to North Atlantic, heading over towards Europe. So it'd be moving over the horizon. So even though it's technically getting higher up in the sky, from our view on the ground, it would look like it would be getting closer to the horizon. Because remember, the Earth's curved, so it's as it goes away from us, it's actually going over the horizon, just like the sun looks like it's going down, when actually it's just going on the other side of the Earth as it orbits. So not sure what Will saw at the airport there. I'm moving the cameras around. Didn't see much out there. So the only reports I have of people seeing it here in Charlotte looks to be from the Waxhaw area, which is pretty cool that we got to see it.
Into flight.
So what's
5 minutes
interesting is we'll
remain in
eventually
this
see
burn
those
of the upper
booster
stage
stages
engines.
come down back to Earth as well.
The RL-10 engines continue to look good.
Now the upper stage is still
Chamber pressures
flying.
continue to look right down the middle of the expected band.
It's going over the horizon now. So we're about 7 minutes, T plus 7 minutes there. You can see the animation, which, you know, we have cameras on board anymore, but you could get a clear
We're seeing
view of
minimal
there.
activity on the RCS
That's still looking at the
system, as
fuel.
expected.
About 75% of the
RCS
fuel is
sirens
still
are
left in this
driving
stage.
loop temperatures to near
So
bottom
it is going to take a
temperatures,
while
as
for this to
expected.
continue to go up. And this is eventually the part that will take it into orbit as we get higher in the sky. So I've got this animation kind of behind me of where we are. So currently we're at part 5 here. So if you look at how this event unfolds, 5 is where we are currently. That's the top of your screen there. And you can see it's now burning through 6 and 7. Once we get to the 9, that's where the capsule will actually separate. And that capsule is going to separate somewhere over the North Pole, basically North Atlantic. And then that piece will come back down. So the separation, the Starliner separation, is 14 minutes and 50 seconds into the flight. So I'm looking at the clock. It looks like we're about 8 minutes and 20 seconds into the flight. So we're roughly in that time between the aeroskirt jettison and the first stage still burning. It has not cut off yet. It will not cut off that engine until about 1150, T plus 1150, and then the separation will happen. But what's interesting is the boosters, the lower stage, and the upper stage are all going to eventually come back down. So those are going to leave some vapor trails and actually be visible to folks as well farther up off the East Coast. So even though if you didn't see the launch, there's a good chance that even as the sun goes down, those high-level clouds might still be up there. So I'm
Powered
looking at,
autopilot is performing
we
well.
just got a great picture from Statesville
Vehicle
of someone
attitude
seeing
rates
it,
are near zero.
which is really nice. It looked basically like a plane. Just got someone tweeted at me from Matthews. They saw it as well, which is pretty cool. So it sounds like east of Charlotte had a little bit better view than we did on the west side. Another Twitter follower, Jennifer, said she saw it with her binoculars. Pretty much all the reports I'm getting, it looked like a contrail behind an aircraft, and that's what you saw. And really cool to see. But looking at some of the pictures, some people had much better visibility than others. So here we are up at the upper part of these stages now, where we're pushing the last part of the capsule up into orbit. And again, they're going to take this up there. This is a trial flight. There's nobody on board right now. Julie said she saw it as well
We're
from
now
Indian
just
Trail
under
with the
10 minutes into
binoculars.
flight. We have 2 minutes remaining until MECO 1.
So it's,
Both RL-10 engines continue to
so
perform
we've
as
got, I
expected.
think we've got the picture. This is from Statesville that was just
Upper
tweeted
stage
at me.
systems are stable.
Thanks to Nick White for sending this in. He actually just tweeted at me, and he was in Statesville. And so this is kind of what we saw. This is, for folks that had a good view, this is what you were looking for. This is kind of what I expected. You know, it looks like an aircraft. And if you're looking in the right section, you know that that was the rocket and not a regular. Just looking at the way the contrail is, too, that's not a contrail. It looks more like smoke coming out of the back. If you look at aircraft quite a bit, you can kind of tell the difference. Contrails will tend to be split by the engines, and they'll be separate. That's one solid, basically, smoke plume right behind. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to see if anyone else sent me any pictures in my way, but I'm glad a lot of folks got to see it. That's the thing about these launches. You don't always know what you're going to get here in the Charlotte area, but the little time and effort it takes to go check this out,
1 minute
you know, it's only
until MECO
15
1.
minutes of your time to look east. You don't need special equipment. So it's kind of easy to go out there, and if you don't see anything, you didn't really invest a lot of time or effort into it. The ones that are tough are the early morning ones. I've gotten up pre-dawn thinking, what am I doing? And then you get paid off with a spectacular view. So it is nice occasionally that happens. So this one, I know a lot of folks probably didn't get to see it. Looking at Concorde, doesn't look all that great. Oh, I see a Concorde. Yeah, this is a good one from Concorde. So you can actually see the contrail. So I'm getting a lot of people saying they're now seeing the contrail. They didn't see the rocket, but they're now the clouds are moving. You can actually see. So look in the middle of your screen. You can see the contrail. Someone else, Martha, saw it in Harrisburg. So it is good. I'm glad some people saw it. It's kind of hit or miss. Indian Trail got a nice view of it as well. Actually, I'm going to go look at my camera on my roof real quickly, see if I got a view of it. I'll actually bring it up and weather one, guys, if I got a view of it for my house.
Entered the coast phase. Separation of Starliner will occur in approximately 3 minutes.
So we're 3 minutes away from the capsule coming off here. So I'm actually going to check our camera down there. That's looking west. Let's look east. Kind of hard to tell. Looking at most of these pictures, I'm curious what, they look to be looking northeast. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people on social media, that the view northeast, this is more east, southeast, so looking off to the northeast tends to be a view.
To its separation attitude.
Here's somebody sent me a video on Twitter. I'll be curious. Robbie sent this to me. Doesn't look like much. It's hard to tell.
Upper stage systems are operating as expected during this coast phase.
So we're now almost out of
About 2
fuel,
minutes
and you're going to see
remaining until
separation here
Starliner
happening
separation.
momentarily. I'm looking at the fuel being burned up here in that upper stage. This is like glance. So it might be worth going to check out if you see outside a contrail in the northeast sky that was likely left over from the rocket. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So people in Fort Mill, ooh, someone got a decent shot. Oh, it's the Indian Trail. Yeah. So yeah, you've seen a lot of views from folks of the contrail more than the rocket, and that's kind of what you expect during a daytime launch, that you're not going to see the actual vehicle. That's the best shot we had so far, and that was from Statesville. So thanks to Nick for sending that in. That is a great shot of what, you know, kind of what I expected it to look like, an airplane, more or less, and you just had to know what you were looking at to see. So it looks like the separation is coming up here momentarily. So we're getting close to that last stage of it coming off here. So we're almost out of fuel. It's going to be ejecting here shortly. So the animation is there. I use a really great piece of software that actually shows almost real-time stats, and it's got a little fuel gauge that shows how much each stage is, and it just looks like the battery meter on your phone. So when you see all that fuel gone, you know it's about to be done. So it's coming up here shortly. That will be
30 seconds till separation.
Then 30 seconds. So we're T plus 14 minutes, 38, 39, 40 seconds. So coming up at 15, it looks like. I think it's at 14:50. It'll be close here. You'll see the separation, and this will be the final part of the launch, and then this will continue into space. So here we go, 10 seconds. And so we got to rely on animation on this because we don't have cameras.
And we have Starliner
right there.
separation.
So there's the separation, Starliner.
At this time, the Centaur and the Starliner will coast separately for a short time prior to their next activities. The Centaur will begin its preparations for re-entry into the Earth atmosphere, and the Starliner will proceed to its orbital insertion burn.
So you'll see that do that burn. And so we will not see the re-entry of the Centaur because that's going to happen way on the other side of the horizon. But that contrail that was left behind, as we get closer to sunset, it might actually still be up there for a while because it's left behind a vapor cloud that right now is blending in with the sky. But as the sun sets, it might illuminate it even further. Some of the recent launches that I've seen, you know, after sunrise, it's pretty crazy to see, and, you know, they happen 2-3 hours before sunrise, and then right before sunrise, all of a sudden, the whole sky gets illuminated with that cloud, and it's left over, it's spread out. It looks pretty cool. Someone just sent me a picture of a plane, and it's clearly a plane. It's hard to tell on some of these contrails, but I can tell the difference between a plane and a rocket contrail because the plane contrail is going to have a split in it because there's engines on both sides of the aircraft and the contrails form there, so there's a line in between. When you see a solid contrail, basically it looks more like smoke. That's what you're going to see as well. So yeah, it looks like a lot of folks, especially on the east, southeast, northeast side of town, so maybe east of I-77, seem to have a little better view than what we've seen here. Just going through my tweets and seeing who else saw it. But you know, this will continue, and this is a test flight. There will be eventually people on board this Starliner capsule, and this will take and ferry people back and forth to low Earth orbit, which will be the space station, International Space Station, for a period of time until that is retired, and then There will be another space station built that's going to be a commercial one that's already under construction that will take over, because eventually the life cycle of the space station is, only so many decades, and it will be retired, and eventually it will come crashing back to Earth in a controlled descent into the Pacific Ocean. A lot of it will burn up. But this is the way that we're going to start moving people back and forth between Earth and space. Now remember, NASA is really contracted a lot of this out to SpaceX and Boeing and other companies. They're overseeing it, but it's a way for them to save money and have corporate clients start doing that, and they're actually commercial ventures as well, like Starlink, which is the SpaceX satellites that sometimes you see go across the sky. Those are going to provide internet access to every square inch of the Earth. Those are going to be thousands and thousands, in fact 40, maybe 1,000 low Earth orbit satellites to provide internet. So you start to see more of those taking over. Nice little picture here. This looks like
now in its re-entry attitude.
So I'm getting some good pictures of the contrail here and there. So it's kind of nice that people actually were outside looking. Like I said, the investment in time and effort was pretty small. So even if you get disappointed, it's, we spend so much time scrolling through our phone for nothing. It doesn't take 15 minutes to go outside and look at the sky. Much more educational and probably worthy to go check out. And keep an eye, even for the next hour, hour and a half or so, now that the launch is pretty much done, that vapor trail might be lingering up in the upper atmosphere for a while. And we might see it get more illuminated as we get closer to sunset. So don't be surprised if you start seeing a weird contrail kind of semi-permanently in the eastern sky for a while, closer to sunset, which is coming up at 8:23. So that's going to be an hour and 10 minutes from now. So as we get closer to sunset and that sun angle gets lower and starts illuminating the eastern sky, it might be worth taking a look off in that direction. I'm looking now at some of our cameras to see if I see any weird contrails. I don't see any from our cameras here. So hopefully you got to enjoy the launch, even if you can get to see it outside. Kind of nice to watch the NASA feed. Remember, you can follow along my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I actually post cool little updates like this whenever there's a nice launch off the East Coast. The best launches, honestly, today was kind of iffy whether we'd see anything, are those pre-sunrise and post-sunset. So if you're really into these things and you want to watch these and see a cool event, look for a launch that's going to happen about an hour before sunrise or about an hour after sunset off the East Coast, because the sky is dark, but the sun over the horizon can illuminate the upper atmosphere and make the whole thing visible. So those are the ones to look out for. So anytime I see that timing taking shape, I start getting excited for some of these events in the future. So hope you enjoyed watching our live stream, and if you get any great pictures the rest of the evening, please send them to us at WCNC on Twitter, on Instagram. You can send them there as well, or at WXBrad. I love to share them tonight coming up at 11 o'clock. Thanks guys for joining.